Brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. And Royal Fidelity Bank and Trust. Money at work.
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying? You don't want to miss this unique, informative audience participation, light-hearted show with lots and lots of Cayman jokes, culture, and guests. As we talk about things we say and do, it happening every third Friday on Talk Today.
See what I'm saying is a special feature of Talk Today, jointly produced by the National Museum and Radio Cayman. A language, history, and culture show. Remember, it's every third Friday on 89.9 and 93.9 FM. See what I'm saying? Begins right now.
Come on, racing there. Do you know that song?
Nope.
Manzi boat in the sound, boy. Manzi boat in the sound. Come on, Miss Susan.
Cayman, Stairway to Heaven.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for joining us here on this another fantastic Friday's edition. Because we're especially grateful to have in the studio, the one, the only, and some would say thankfully, Mr. Ray Michael.
You boosted me up like that?
Well, listen, if I boost you, then by association, I too shall be boosted.
Oh.
And,
you're one of them Klingons.
Is that from one of the sci-fi shows?
Did I tell that joke yet? What does Klingons and toilet paper have in common?
No. Well, what does it have in common?
They're both... Never mind. They both circle one of the planets.
There you go.
Yeah, I know I couldn't finish the rest on the radio. So.
Well, listen, it is a monthly See What I'm Saying show,
Yeah.
and I would like to again very publicly extol the invaluable contributions of the cultural champions who have so graciously, unselfishly, contributed and continue to promote, support, our culture, history, and heritage. And if I may, Ray, I know that as a people, we're not the best at receiving compliments, but I think that it behooves us for people to appreciate the amount of work that you do. I've said this publicly, but I've also shared that this one show is probably more taxing, more time consuming than all of the other shows, even when you got to deal with the politicians and all of this stuff. And I say that because it is a lot of work to...
Yeah, and I'm not a trained researcher and stuff like that, and that's why it's kind.
I get it, man, and that's a failure on our society's part. Another one of, maybe the few, but the significant. And this month's topic, we're talking about Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, and
well, apparently his name wasn't even Christopher.
It's Ferdinand.
Even to that was a.
But Monday we're talking basically the reason we had a holiday last Monday.
Was there a holiday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Discovery Day. And I heard you talking, I think, to Elio and stuff about why it was and all that stuff. But Discovery Day, yeah. So May 10th was 1503 is slated as the first day of Cayman, basically. First day Cayman existed.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? And to those who are listening...
As a debate point.
Right. We maybe rate this as a good jumping off point. As we engage our audience to live, to learn, I would say to laugh and hopefully to show some love. But in this particular topic, to challenge what we believe we know, the perceptions and misconceptions, but also to recognize that there's so much more.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I chose this topic, because and then poll the people after. What do you know? Everybody asks, what do you know? And it doesn't go any further other than the handful of historians, Cayman historians that I know. And of course, you go, of course, this is this and this.
Yeah.
But the general sort of consensus is, 1503. Some people think he landed here as in Grand Cayman, things like that. Sighted us. That's about it. 1503 sighted us. Las Tortugas.
That's it.
That's it.
And like so much, I think I say this carefully because there are some who would say it, and I don't want it to be sort of.
You're being careful again.
Well, I should. You think I should? Maybe not.
No.
I'm not driving, so I don't have to be that careful. But there are those who would say, in the words of Churchill, I think is where I first heard it. That's correct.
Or Churchill.
Or Churchill. No, that's what people must be.
Okay.
All right. The notion that history will be kind to me because for I shall read it. But the problem is that African proverb that you reminded us very early on. How does it go?
Paraphrasing, until the lion gets a historian, the hunter will always be the hero.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenge.
Basically, looking at the point of view, and basically the winner is always the storyteller.
Even the term, colonialized peoples, we recognize that so much of what is said and repeated, but sometimes what is reinterpreted, reassigned, and in many instances, sort of redefined deliberately to paint a particular picture. I think to a group of students.
And you could definitely say Columbus is a person for that. Or a victim or whatever, a subject of all of that.
Yeah, and when I hear people talk about things that happened yesterday, literally, today's Friday, yesterday was Thursday, and they get into a big debate. Well, human memory is a bad thing. You can't rely on it, right? And this was, yesterday, you remember yesterday you had on that blue shirt and you dropped the coffee on it, and there's a debate and the laughter and there's some discussion.
Yeah, human memory is fickle,
right?
To say the least.
But something that happened 500 plus years ago, a century ago, or even...
Off of this month, I think it's 518.
Right. Or something that was, 5,000 years ago, for instance, right? How accurate and how deliberately conscious was the...
Well, it can't be 100%. You got to be as close to.
Right.
And you got to use as much evidence as you can and attack it from so many different angles.
Well, I must share with you that this is probably the first time in a long time. It may even be the first time that I cast my net to see if I had anybody in my family who was still around when Columbus came on board.
It was hard to get a guest or look for things for this.
Miss Susan's here, Anna was here, but she couldn't make the trip over. So we couldn't find a living person around when Columbus was here.
No clips from archive, although it's when I got a little oral history type thing or a little story, but we can get to that later maybe.
So as people listen, and I think it's important that we appreciate that there's a rich history in the Caribbean. There's a lot of interconnectedness within the Caribbean. There's some significant differences. And I believe that every single person should champion their lineage, their ancestry, their culture. Even if they go to another country, being mindful and respectful of integrating and trying to adopt.
It's funny, we don't seem to do that as much. It's done here a lot, but we don't seem to take it to other.
But, right, and even worse, we're either unwilling or we are afraid or we are probably unsure of how to present it, how to invite people to share in it.
Maybe a little bit of all.
Or maybe a bit of all. And I carefully say this because I don't wish to...
Again, you being careful.
Again.
Does it seem like I be careful?
Well, I'll be careful. So that you don't have
to. For
me.
Yeah. So you're like a Band-Aid then. You Mercurochrome.
Susan, you remember that word, Mercurochrome?
That came up on another show.
Yep,
we had that medicine.
And I think that one of the, and I've said this so often, that it's important, right? That just like our seafarers went to sea and they interacted with many different people as they went to different ports. And they interacted in many different ways. And they came back with a strong appreciation of what the world is, and I think a healthy respect of what Cayman is and should be.
Openness, I think, too.
Yeah.
I think that's what you found, like a open mind, I think. That's what I think it does, too.
We talk about today's language, tolerance and acceptance, accommodation and invitation. But I look at Cayman right now, and even the last, let's say, 17 months, 18 months. So take of all of last year and take to date. And we see in this country all of the different people with all of their, little bits and pieces. We can get so much if we do it together, right? And I have found a newfound appreciation for this country and a reason why I champion it, why I love it so much, why I want it to be preserved and promoted and celebrated, but why there is a need to stand together, right? So that in 100 years from now, what our parents and grandparents. I mean, my uncle is 100 plus. You know, my aunt was 101. When you think that people like that saw so much, experienced so much, and still have a joy, so much of a joy for life, right? And yet here we are. Yeah, sometimes ingrates. I don't know, man. It's appalling.
Frustrating?
Yeah, it's appalling that we don't realize. And what is even more offensive is when you have somebody, if I may say, someone like you, like me even, but who will say, man, what a beautiful place, what a rich history, what a tapestry that we've woven, and you try to celebrate it, and you get people, your own people, not even others, right? Will band about words without even thinking about xenophobia, nationalistic words that in and of themselves shouldn't, not even be considered, because it's about celebration and it's about, participation. And so when you sent me the stuff on Columbus, I thought, I mean, the first time in school, asking questions, well, how do we know this is the case, right? Because you're not presenting sufficient evidence.
Yeah.
And
well,
then,
I tell you, it's very, very little to do with Cayman, with Columbus anyway. Like literally like one little passage, not a passage, a line.
A line, basically. Kind of like in the Constitution, there shall be district councils, but that's a different story. But maybe there's somebody out there, whether they're Caymanian with, generational links, whether they're people who are here new. What is their perception and teaching and knowledge of Columbus? Not necessarily relevant and only specific to Cayman, but in general, right? Some of the things that you shared may be new to some of us. You want to take us through, man, so that we can start?
Well,
Break, Miss Susan? Already?
The whole thing about...
Enough of chocolate? Bro, can I just pause you for a second? See the lady in red? It's not that song by... Who sings that? The lady in red with black and grey? Anyway, so we're going to pause. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll maybe start it formally, go to our notes.
Okay.
And take us through this whole thing about Columbus?
Sure.
All right. Please join us after the break. Pull your tea, warm it up, add a little bit of turmeric to it. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
The Le Masque Dinner Show, an elegant evening of fine dining, live entertainment, and more at the Kimpton Seafire Resort, Saturday, June 5th, 7 p.m. to midnight. Tickets are just $150 each on eventpro.ky or visit Les Classiques to book a table of 10. Proceeds to benefit the HSA's dialysis unit. The Le Masque Dinner Show, a signature Batabanu event, June 5th at the Kimpton Seafire Resort. See you there.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Work Jobs Cayman has a new look. Registered users can now experience a more user-friendly platform, allowing for easier registration and posting of job ads. To see and experience the new look today, visit www.work.ky. That's WORC.ky.
This Saturday, May 22nd, the vaccination challenge is heading to Cayman Brack. Join Minister of Tourism and Transport, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, and Minister of Health and Wellness, the Honorable Sabrina Turner, at the Aston Rutty Medical Wing from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for a meet and greet with the community as you get vaccinated. And remember, anyone being vaccinated through June 9th will be entered into the Vaccination Challenge prize draw for prizes, including airline tickets, staycations, and more.
How would you describe Siwa Sayin?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
Siwa Sayin.
And welcome back. Thank you for joining us, and thanks too for Ms. Susan for making it not only sound good, look easy, but actually work. And thanks to Ray Banco for our monthly Siwa Sayin show. I think it's even in this time around, very special thanks to our good friends over the National Archive for always being available to us.
They weren't too active this time. Like I said, there's other than one line, there's not much left. Not much reference to Cayman.
All right.
So just start off with some misconceptions about Columbus. Remember that whole thing in school about he set out to discover that to prove that the world wasn't flat. That's a misconception. People in his day for centuries knew that had an idea that the Earth was round. So that's a misconception.
But yet often repeated, right? We believe that's what was happening, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although there's a movement now. I don't know whether it's a joke or what it is, but flat earthers, you heard that?
Yeah, that I think, the context that I understand it in is flattening the earth so that as a people we're interconnected and through the use of technology.
This is science. This is people thinking that the world is flat.
Okay, I was glad for
it's
business.
It's a disc and it's a half. It has a dome over it.
Okay, so I didn't even look at that. I look at the part of integration and collaboration Okay, so
flat earthers. There's a movement. Okay. Flat earthers that.
Yeah, I'm trying to work on flattening my. Go ahead.
Anyway, the other one of the other ones is Columbus discovered America, or they're probably saying North America. He discovered Central America and some of South America, but never actually touched down on the North American continent. I think maybe Ponce de Leon, or for the Spanish anyway, but before that was the Vikings.
Yeah, and even the Chinese.
Yes, they're talking about Chinese too from that other side. Yeah. So the other thing was the genocide of natives, and that's what's coming up more now with the cancel culture. And they want to cancel Christopher Columbus Day or Discovery Day in the U.S. There's not a lot of evidence that yes and no. Yes and no. He was a great sailor, but a terrible administrator. And when he was the admiral or in charge, I forget what his title was, but he was in charge of the New World. So Hispaniola and Cuba and places like that. A lot of atrocities happened, and it's kind of documented by a famous friar or reverend, Spanish reverend, of people getting their hands cut off. They had the natives. They was enslaved. They had to have a quota of gold and if not gold, cotton, I think, or something. Basically, if they didn't fulfill their quota, they'd have their hands chopped off, their nose chopped off. There's things of feeding the children to dogs and all that stuff like that. And they wondered if they had a soul, the native population. So that is. But wasn't a lot of evidence that he did it. He was a very religious person, like super religious, more religious than the average person. And there's a lot of incidences where, of course, that's third party. We're getting a lot of this information that he wanted to treat the natives well. His first introduction to them. He treated them well. He didn't want them harmed and things like that. And he noted that they were so friendly and tame, basically, that they could. This is the Tainos now. That 50 men could basically overpower all of them. Could what could subjugate them, for lack of a better word. So, like I said, that's up in the air. There's a lot of stuff that happened. Also, another one, Columbus introduced syphilis to Europe. That's a side thing. He definitely, or the Europeans definitely introduced diseases that were not known to the New World, or not.
So they brought diseases over.
Yeah, they definitely brought diseases. Smallpox is one of the biggest ones. So like
that ties in. That was a gift.
Yeah, that ties into the genocide thing. How much of the population they anticipate, like 70 to like 90% of the indigenous population? Because you don't hear a lot about them, and that's kind of our little thing to give more credence to it, to them. But like it varies, millions, possible millions, to hundreds of thousands of people in the region, and they've been here for thousands of years. Yeah. So it almost seems like there was nothing here. Columbus came here, boom, now there's something. But there were people there, civilization, cultures going on.
Sort of like a cultural policy. It was nothing until it was... Sorry. They say that. All right, before you continue with the misconceptions and the like, why don't we join our first caller? All right, that handsome fellow sitting next to me, you think is Ray Banker?
I thought it was a third person.
Let's go to the phone. Say good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling. Buenas tardes. All right, Susan?
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Yes, gentlemen. Just a couple of things, observations.
All right.
I remember a professor of mine in college saying that we all been told that Columbus and a side of white men, he said, came and discovered the New World. And he said, actually, they came and disturbed the New World. But anyway, that word discover is what gets me,
Yeah, yeah, man.
Because how can you, if he came here and found people, how can you say he discovered it?
Yeah, they are changing it. They're saying stuff like the first European that came here and things like that. They're trying to, change it a little bit.
But you're right. How can you discover what is already existing, right?
Because, hello?
Yeah, he stumbled upon it, but we're on the same page as you.
Yeah, like I always say, the thing about it's not only Columbus, all these Europeans that went all over the world and discovered, and they found people there, they found civilizations there, in some cases civilizations that were even more, advanced than theirs, but yet we've been told that, these Europeans discovered.
Yeah. It's called a Eurocentric. It's called a Eurocentric view.
Really, over the years, it makes me, think that as if, like you said, nothing was there, and then these Europeans came and made it. So it's just a misnomer, a misconception, and like so many other things that we have been fed, and sometimes when you grow up and you think about it, you realize, hey,
No, but you are right,
How can you really trust the education you get,
Yeah.
Because we've all been educated from a European slant.
Educated or conditioned,
a lot of things.
Indoctrinated, sorry, did you say?
Pardon me?
Sorry, did you say indoctrinated?
Or educated?
Educated or indoctrinated, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
And educated, we might even say brainwashed.
Yeah.
There you go. But I appreciate what you shared, right?
And just wanted to bring that up,
And thank you. And before you go, as you listen, right, the reason why I use that word deliberate, it isn't to be facetious. It isn't even to, make other people be offended. It's that we're living in a space and a place right now in our history that we have been asking our educators, right, those teachers that we've educated in many different places for whom we have spent money individually, as a government, as a society, and as private sector, to teach our children to be critical thinkers and learners. And the minute those children start to question, or even the educators start to share, other theories and thought processes, what have you.
Become radical or troublemaker.
Yeah.
Difficult.
Yeah, man. Exactly. And I think that has to stem, well, you know what? Thank you for always, sharing publicly and privately when you do as well. Enjoy the weekend, my friend. Enjoy the rain. Listen, don't get your hair wet,
Huh?
Don't get your hair wet.
But already is.
All right, all the best to you, my friend.
Already cool.
Blessings. But it is.
Rain. I hope it's raining in West Bay.
Yeah. Listen, if you're listening, right, and it's raining by you, send my message and let me know. 949-837.
Send us some pictures.
1-800-534-8255.
Forget how it looks. How rain looks in West Bay.
Yeah. Well, it can't be far from here, huh? All right. So, Miss Susan shared. Do we have another caller? Let's go to the phones, huh? We take a break again today, Bobo. Oh Lord, how much
this is another holiday apparently.
Apparently it is. All right, you be so kind because Susan is really a gracious lady. So stay tuned, please.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Things just got a bit hotter on Island. Come in today and order the new spicy Korean subs at Subway. They're sweet, spicy, and especially satisfying. Stop in and try the pulled pork with spicy Korean sauce, or the chicken with spicy Korean sauce. And you can message WhatsApp at 929-4658. Order online or use Let's Eat or the Bento app. The spicy Korean subs at Subway in 2 flavors, extra saucy and extra spicy. Subway, eat fresh.
Did you know that defective airbags can cause serious injury or even death if not repaired immediately? Right now, millions of vehicles around the world are under recall for faulty Takata airbags, and yours could be one of them. At Vant Motors, our priority is to make sure the Toyota or Ford you drive is safe. So we are offering customers a free, fast and easy airbag swap out if your vehicle was manufactured in 2016 or earlier. Find out if you need to have new airbags installed by emailing your Ford or Toyota vehicle's VIN or vehicle identification number to service@vantmotors.com or stop by Vamp's Service Center or call us at 949-2245. Don't risk it. Get the airbags in your Toyota or Ford checked for free at Vant Motors on Walkers Road.
I'm your parent before I'm your friend. The emotional role of a parent is built on love, affection, and esteem. It's an essential part of being a parent, and it's a beautiful thing to behold. But your role as a parent is not just emotional, and your child is not your friend. Indeed, much of the parenting role is functional. For an infant, that means feeding, changing diapers, bathing, and generally providing for the child. For an 8-year-old, it means ensuring homework is done. And for a 15-year-old, it means setting and reinforcing a responsible curfew. This message was brought to you by the National Drug Council and Radio Cayman.
Siwa Sayin is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. Siwa Sayin.
Good afternoon, welcome back, and thank you for joining us. And thanks too for not only engaging us in the history lesson and helping to educate, inform, but through you, we can appreciate much. And thanks to the Ray Banker for the production of our monthly Siwa Sayin show.
So when we left off, we were talking about pandemics.
We were?
Yeah,
okay.
kind of.
Okay.
Well, we were, anyway, caller, not the caller.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we talked about, they're saying Columbus introduced syphilis to Europe from the New World. They did some digging, and they found some skeletons and things like that had definite signs of syphilis.
Syphilis in the New World?
Hopefully it doesn't include, some of the thing doesn't include speech.
So this is
but, in the New World. I think it was in UK actually found buried, and syphilis advanced syphilis will attack the bones. So the bones showed definite signs, and these were burials pre-1490, like Columbus's first voyage, right?
Right.
So
So he didn't bring it there.
No, he. They might have been ships round about the same time, like when he came back. So
what about
all confused?
The Europeans?
Europeans definitely brought unknown pathogens, unknown diseases to the New World.
Right.
Smallpox being one of the most ones, and that's what basically decimated and caused the cultures here to be conquered, basically, because there's even things of stories of when the conquistadors were going to Central America and all of the vast armies and the amount of castles and things like that they had there, lack of a better word, fortifications. They basically just walked into cities because what do you call it? The bio germs basically were preceding these conquistadors.
So it's basically biowarfare in a sense.
Yeah.
First, really use of bioweapons.
Yeah, not knowing, you know. So all the Cayman, there were people were sick, you know, things like that. So that's a misnomer. That's one of the misnomers. One that Columbus died died unknown in poverty. He will kind of get to it, but he wasn't the richest. His children were. His children inherited a lot of his wealth and his benefits, but he was known, especially when he first came back for his first trip. He was definitely known, and he wasn't super rich, but he wasn't poor. But anyway, so Columbus didn't do anything significant. He discovered new lands. He tried to get to China. He thought he convinced himself, to almost his dying day, he was convinced that he found China. Cuba was Japan. This was from previous things going the other way, finding the Indies by going west. And he had descriptions of what the lands looked like, so he thought he had found it. Yeah. So that was
cool.
So he did discover a new world.
All right. Well, listen, as we go to the...
Sorry that I'm...
No. As we go to the other caller, those who are messaging, I haven't got... we got Crew Road, Rain, Lightning and Thunder. We got Rain in Bordentown.
Tell them to go West Bay. Take it West Bay.
Yeah, well, I just want to... Anyway, let's go to the phones. Let's go there. Hey, good afternoon, and thank you for calling.
Sorry, Easton, for not looking out for you, but...
Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, you speak of history and the illustrious historian. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon to yourself, Montham.
Yes, sir.
The radio is quite interesting. I wondered when they tried to do something about Christopher Columbus and explode some of the myths. The gentleman who had called him before about discovering, it all depends on how you interpret the word discovering. But or arrived might be better to say, or came upon. What we got to understand, Columbus was first of all a very good mathematician.
Yes.
And it helped to save his life, and it gave him that ability to do the navigation that he did in those days. That would have been phenomenal, what he did. And that's how he was able to do what he did. At the time of his second voyage, I'm pretty sure it was his second voyage, and it could not have been later than the third, but I'm sure where he was in Jamaica for a whole year, his ships were in very bad.
That's the fourth. That's this voyage. That's the fourth voyage. Yeah?
No, they were from before that.
Yeah.
It helped to save him.
Yeah.
It saved his life. That mathematical ability, as you know about the incident with the eclipse of the sun.
Yes.
With the Arawak Indians, where his men were taking their wives. I guess they had some sort of marriage. That was from days of yore, and using their wives for themselves. And the Arawaks, what was left, many were still there, hundreds, thousands.
Yes.
In Jamaica, and they were going to kill him and his crew, but he explained to them he had learned by that time some of the lingo. He could communicate, as you said, quite rightly, had taken them as friends, and they respected and befriended him. And he predicted the eclipse of the sun, told them that he'd close the sun off. That cemented him as a kind of god for a while there with them. Saved his life. And it did. He told them in 3 days he had calculated it and so forth. And also, you've got to remember, by his third voyage, even before that, they had established a city. So there are many other ships from Spain had come across with him by the second or third voyages. And they had established a city and a capital there in the Dominican Republic. And the governor of the capital there, the Spanish governor, did send him a barrel of pork and pork, pig's tails and feet and so, pickled, because he wanted to kill him. He knew he suffered from gout, and they had this terrible revenge, the hatred for Columbus.
Yeah.
And he knew that, that would be very detrimental to a person suffering from gout.
Politics.
It was a bad thing with him.
Yeah.
And he did do that. But when he came here, only 183 miles away, he would certainly have been over here, or others of them would certainly have been over here. So he came here with a crude chart. That is now documented in the Spanish archives, and that is well known. So someone had been here before. It was a crude chart, but it was a chart of the islands and so forth. And it would be preposterous to assume that he wouldn't have come here or come here with the amount of turtles that were available and so forth. So all that is as a gentleman was saying, not about discovering. And many of these things can be found, but there's a lot of information on him in the Spanish archives and in the archives in Jamaica, where he spent a considerable amount of time. And by 1670, I think it was, no, before that, 1630, when one of the Spanish prefects had sent a message over to the Spanish government that was in Jamaica, the Spanish prefect, I think they called them, and said there were only about 78 Arawak Indians remaining there, because they had been decimated by disease, as he said, and they were more or less a peaceful, very artistic people. That's why there are many remnants of Arawak,
yes, sir,
artifacts there in Jamaica. There are many, many, many things there. Their murals and their paintings and different things that they had, and their settlements there. And of course, it's an Arawak Indian word, the word Jamaica, so forth. So it's Columbus thing. It's like a myth where we assume that he discovered, as that gentleman said, discovered a new world and so forth. That's not so. There were civilizations here, very, very advanced civilizations. I think they're in Mexico with the building all those great pyramids, and they're in South America. And there are lots of evidence of early civilizations over there. That's well known now. The trouble with us now, we are so taken up with the modern technology.
The Eurocentric too.
Yeah.
Yes, it is so. That is it. They thought that anything done by European also with was the world. That was considered the world at the time. Anything in Europe was the world, and so forth. So if they did it, then they were the discoverers of the rest of the world.
Right.
But these things are on our thing now, and we are learning more. But I wish you would pay more attention to these historic things.
Right.
And instead of being wrapped up so much in new technology and not focusing on these.
Yes, sir.
These things, really, it's sad, but that's the way the world is going now. So
these conversations help, and thank you for that too, because it's a reminder. Hey, thanks very much, sir, and hope you have a great weekend. And the caller has always championed the idea of understanding the historical record. I think where, from what he said, where we need to go is to be mindful that even though it may be recorded and it may have been on challenge for centuries, like we're seeing now, not just with the pulling down of statues or the reparations that are being called for, or the notion that the name of places and things and the like in the celebration of holidays, maybe in today's context, perhaps have been overlooked for too long and need to be properly assessed.
Yeah. I mean, and the problem is too, when you do history and you look at some of your heroes, you really shouldn't study your heroes, because you will always find that they're flawed.
I mean, look at well, you know what? Some of my students used to call him Useless Grant, not Ulysses Grant. And when you think of it, if history is written in a certain way to present a certain picture, and it's never objective or accurate.
But just by the nature of humans, there'll always be some flaw. I mean, you go into Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
There's things about him. You mentioned Churchill. There are things about him.
Even Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
John F. Kennedy. I mean, great people.
The more you know about them, the more you learn about them,
the
more you realize that they've got flaws. And whether you want to cancel out all the positives that is attached to them because of it.
But then in that too, and as we go into the news break, the question is often ignored, seldom asked, but often ignored, even when we look within. Whether it's in our own country or our own region, how much of our own people are we willing to celebrate, and how often are we willing to cancel all of the good because of that one bad thing?
Yeah, and I think we're definitely at fault for that. Somebody does something that you don't agree with, and that's it. We're really black and white with things like that, and I think to our detriment. Really
Cutting off our noses to spite our face?
Yeah.
Well, let's pause, take a break. When you come back, you take us through the Fourth Voyage. And I understand that you were there. Sure. You were the captain boy? All right, yeah. Let's see what Ray has to say when we come back. So it's another installment of See What I'm Saying.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
54% of the population has now been fully vaccinated for COVID-19, with 64 having received at least one dose of the vaccine. There are no positives in the latest results from the Chief Medical Officer. The islands have 18 active asymptomatic cases at the moment. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, the remains of at least 24 people have been uncovered at the home of a former police officer in El Salvador. The graves may hold up to 40 bodies, most of them thought to be women or girls, officials say. Exhuming all the bodies could take another month. Police believe that the recovery reveals a secret murder ring operating over a decade. And Apple boss Tim Cook is taking the witness stand for the first time in his company's major legal battle with Epic Games over an alleged monopoly. Epic, maker of the hit video game Fortnite, claims Apple's tight control over iPhone apps hurts competition. During his appearance, Mr. Cook argued that keeping control of the App Store helped keep iPhones secure. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky. How would you describe See What I'm Saying?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
See What I'm Saying?
And good afternoon, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to the Ray Banker for continuing the great work. And a topic like Columbus, it's not only specific to the region, it's important for us, especially.
Yeah. Well, every historic thing written about Cayman is always starts 1503, Columbus.
I'll say this, very mindful of current conversations that some people may be sharing more publicly, more frequently. We have a Monday off this week. For some, like many of our holidays, we question why we don't even know.
Some of us don't question and just...
Yeah, we're just glad for the day off and complain about it if we got to pay for it, if we're not getting paid double time or what have you, right? And then, well, should it be renamed and the like? Not unlike the things we're seeing happening, but maybe we're coming from an ill-informed perspective and perhaps jumping...
Ill-informed? I just think it's easy to accept something. There's no other narrative. So
okay, so take us through then.
Yeah,
because
so my
Columbus Day in the U.S. as well, but
Columbus Day in the U.S. Did I say that? Yeah,
no. So
how that started, and that's kind of basically what that last discovery holiday was taken from.
Like many of the holidays, right?
Yeah.
All right.
It was funny that they say that came about Discovery Day all the way from the 1700s, when they wanted to distance themselves. This is during America's independence, around about that time. They wanted to dissociate themselves from Britain. So instead of saying that Britain was the founders of America, they adopted Columbus instead as the founder. As I said before, Misconceptions, he never actually set foot in America, or the North America, I should say. He never discovered North America. So that's been heralded as a Discovery Day as Columbus, and it's particularly the Italian community, which is even in debate also.
Yeah, again, an attempt by some to present a particular narrative, and over time becomes accepted as fact, whether it is historically accurate or not. And even a semblance of truth sometimes can be extrapolated and magnified, and then it becomes gospel. So we see that.
And then so to do with Cayman, whether discovery, I would say it's the first noted European written noted of Cayman being cited that we know of so far. Saying that so Columbus' first voyage was 1492, and there's and then 1503 was when we were supposed to be sighted. I gotta keep saying that, sighted. And there's a 1502, I think it's called Cantino map, that shows 3 islands situated situated next to Jamaica.
Very close by.
Yeah, so 1502. So remember now, after the 1490, like as the caller said, there were a bunch of, at least 2 other voyages by Columbus. And the second voyage, he brought 17 ships over 1,000 people, cattle, all that stuff, with the idea that they're going to be populated. The New World was going to be colonized. So there's a lot of ships, and in between all of that, there's a lot of other voyages.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that
because I think we just think it's just Columbus coming over all the time. And like we said in the ad, it was just Nina de Pinta. He's just floating around with them,
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And we go back to whether we were the natives, the Taino, the indigenous people here.
Yeah.
They were here for thousands of years, and they were ocean-going people. And some of Columbus's, the log that we were referring to that mentioned Cayman, had some other things in it, just around Jamaica, I think it was. Just out in the ocean.
But even Hispaniola as well, we saw some stuff there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, I won't say a lot, there's a few attempts to find out if there was any pre-Columbian civilization in Cayman. And the consensus is they never visited our shores. That I find it hard to believe. And like I said, handful of us Cayman historians, kind of doubt that also.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some stuff that will be bring to light at some point.
Yeah. But that got. I've since read about that. Miss Anita Banks had turned me on to what in the Founded Upon the Seas, that those there may be a reason for those also.
Yeah, we do have a caller joining us, and I think the more we ask questions, the more we seek answers, and the more we share knowledge, the more empowered we become. But I think the more enlightened we are. So let's pause and take this caller. Hey, good afternoon, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Sterling.
Good afternoon, man. And your best, Ghanaian accent, say good afternoon to me now.
I'll reserve that for another special occasion.
There you go, sir. There you go.
Based on the research I have done and what I've heard and what I've been scratching at, because our history is remarkable in this area,
Yeah.
We, the Cayman Islands, as we know it, were a hostile territory for people to come to really stop and do anything. However, or close proximity to Jamaica and Cuba, which were citadels of the Taínos, suggest, according to some of the writings that I've come across, that the Taínos did visit these islands, and they had a name, and it is eluding me, but I did come across some reference to a name.
Is it Lagartos? Not
no,
Lagartos?
No, it was that was
the Spanish.
This is pre-Columbian name to the Taíno era. It is said that the Taínos would visit the islands for specific hardwoods and rare other forms of flora that were not found in Jamaica or Cuba.
When you sorry, when you said it was hostile
in terms of the mosquito population here was remarkable. In fact, our first militia in the Cayman Islands and our first line of defense was truly the mosquito.
Yeah.
And at that time, the mosquito population was beyond belief.
I wouldn't mind you sharing that with us, because our research indicated quite the opposite, that despite the perception of that, it was actually the hardwoods that, as you said, may have attracted, but the mosquitoes weren't really that significant within the Cayman context. They were presumably a lot later.
After all the visitation.
Yeah, after the visitation. And strangely enough, well...
I'll go back to my digging.
Yes, please, yeah.
There's another interesting kernels that came across, that there were specific plants that were part of Taino worship that was not endemic to Cayman, that was found in Cayman, which indicated that some of their worship ceremonies could have occurred here.
Yes.
But they did occur in Jamaica and they did occur in Cuba. So that is something that we probably need it back to.
Yeah.
Another very interesting thing is the Taino population stretched from Puerto Rico down in the south all the way up to Florida. In fact, it is said that the DNA of the original South Floridian native population had Taino in them. And so there were these as our...
They call it Siboney? Is that what you think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's interesting. This is where we share the research, because when you saw, as you reference to Jamaica, what we saw was that the Tainos from, would that be south, as far as the Trinidad off of Venezuela, in that area, coming up through the Caribbean.
Or
and
Arawak, at least.
Yeah.
Arawak,
and coming up through Hispaniola and the like, skirting, would that be the western side of Cuba? My brothers would say, boy, you don't know your geography. But then the bypass, so that in the Jamaican context, I think from when the English in particular started taking interest, maybe by then, if there was any presence, it wasn't as significant. So the tracking...
The population was decimated by Columbus and his crew, who enslaved them after they brought sugar plantation life to the Caribbean. But here is the interesting context that overrides all of this. Christopher Columbus was a Jew, and he came from an era when the Jews were on the run during a period called the Inquisition, where they were slaughtered, and they were looking for places to escape.
Yeah, his first voyage was the day after, the day after they declared war basically on the Jews in Spain.
Yes, and as such, there is a rich history of Jews who were trying to find a way to survive and coming over to this side of the world to kind of find enclaves and to be able to continue their trading, which they were remarkable at in that region, the Mediterranean region in North Africa. And as a result of that, there was a book called Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean, which I spoke briefly with here about, and there's another book called Jamaican Jews by Jacob Andrade, which is remarkable, an anthology of how the Jews ran away from the Inquisition, how they were chased by both Portuguese and Spanish, and a lot of interesting political arrangements that occurred between the British, the Spanish, and the Portuguese. It is said that Columbus was rewarded Jamaica as a part of his arrangements with Spain to enable his Jewish group to set up a citadel outside of the Inquisition, escape the Inquisition.
With respect to that particular island and that sort of concession, use today's language, right? Did your research, from what I've found, it would indicate that at that point, the habitation or the inhabitants of Jamaica, there wasn't that many, in a sense. So there were a lot of vacant land.
There was a lot of vacant land.
Yeah, and so there weren't even many, and I use the word I don't like, but natives. So when they did a survey of it, they found that there wasn't that much settlement, that many people relative to, say, Cuba or Hispaniola or other places. So the population or the residences weren't plentiful, if at all. Did you kind of come across that?
Yes, came across that. But there was also in the Nicene War between the Caribs and the Taínos. The Caribs were the more warlike. And as such, that's part of the reason why some of the Taínos were very nomadic and they were very maritime oriented. They would move away. And they were the peace-loving of the two.
Cayman kind.
A smattering of DNA evidence of Taino continuity in the eastern part of Jamaica. There's smattering, more than smattering in Cuba. Eastern part of Cuba, there is Taino DNA, people who have the DNA going back. And then there is also Taino registration in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, yes.
So there has been
big movement
some survival in spite of the genocide that was unleashed on them. And then during the wars where the British eventually took over Jamaica, the Maroons were a combination of Spanish, Taino, and African. And
that's where you got your jerk chicken from.
Continuation of thread, even though we read and hear that the original native peoples, the First Nation peoples were decimated. They were not totally extinct.
No.
And but the overarching, interesting context of Columbus's continuous association with Jamaica for a number of voyages and a number of years has to do with the fact that he was trying to establish a citadel of respite from the Inquisition, which was horrific in the name of religion. There was a lot of war wreaked on the Jews, and they came to Suriname, they were in Holland, they were in a number of places, but Jamaica ended up being a sacred place because of an agreement between Columbus and Spain that he would be the governor, so some sort of a way of Jamaica. That lasted until his demise, and it was handed down through his kin, and then it was wrested from him. However, the book Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean brings a very remarkable light as to how successful Jewish citadels were able to set up in Barbados, in Jamaica, in a number of other Caribbean countries, and what they did with piracy, being on the footing of piracy, to enable it to be to have the rich history that we are now reading about. I think it has been subjugated by the historians, the Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean part, because of obvious overtones.
You think historians or the people themselves?
Maybe the people themselves.
I think that for me, I think they're trying to hide more. I mean, this is another topic that we need to delve into. But I think it's more like them personally trying to hide than historians.
Yeah.
origin
Yes, sir.
because they wanted to survive.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to dominate our discussion, but I cannot tell you how important it is for you to do your research and doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Likewise, man.
You're opening windows of oxygen to our mental capacity and enabling us to understand a little more about who we are. There's a lot of complexity about Cayman,
yes,
the Caribbean, and this complexity is beyond belief. That Jewish part of the Caribbean has a cloud over our DNA in the Cayman Islands.
Yes.
And our maritime heritage.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll come back to that another time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
man.
definitely a whole show for
Yeah,
that.
man. And send that on when you can. Send us off especially to Ray as well because yeah, man. It's
exchange our information.
yeah, man.
Yes.
And thanks for digging and sharing. Enjoy your afternoon.
Okay,
Right.
bye.
And this is why this approach, as casual it may be seen to some people, allows others to appreciate the importance of collaboration. Ray, after the break,
Yeah.
you would share more with us?
Sure.
All right, including the chocolate in the bag? No. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Carl Esmond Scott, JP, 1909 to 2002. Pastor Carl Esmond Scott was born in Spot Bay, Cayman Brac. He married Violet Rosa Scott, with whom he had 8 children. He made outstanding contributions to the island as a pastor, marriage officer, justice of the peace, carpenter, and distinguished seaman and engineer on the M.V. Kirksons for the Kirkconnell family. In carrying out his pastoral duties, he counseled, advised, and assisted many families in various ways. He was known to many as a jack of all trades, as he used his God-given talents to help the needy, the lost, and the straying.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
The La Masque Dinner Show, an elegant evening of fine dining, live entertainment, and more at the Kimpton Seafire Resort, Saturday, June 5th, 7 p.m. to midnight. Tickets are just $150 each on eventpro.ky or visit Les Classiques to book a table of 10. Proceeds to benefit the HSA's dialysis unit. The La Masque Dinner Show, a signature Badabanu event, June 5th at the Kimpton Seafire Resort. See you there.
At Subway, we know a meal isn't quite complete without a side, and that's why we're introducing waffle fries. Subway's waffle fries are oven-baked softness with extra crispy edge, giving a satisfying taste to be enjoyed as is or in any of Subway's dipping sauces. Order waffle fries as a side item for $2 or make it a meal deal. Subway, eat fresh.
The HSA Specialist Clinic has relocated to a new, modern, state-of-the-art facility at Smith Road Center to offer you a better patient experience. Receive care from top specialists in chiropractic, complementary and alternative medicine, neurology, ENT, urology, pain management, and more. Our orthopedic and telemedicine clinics remain at the Cayman Islands Hospital campus. Please remember to bring your own face mask when visiting any HSA location. Visit our website, hsa.ky, to learn more. At the HSA, you matter to us.
I'm looking for a new pizza joint with that perfect crust. My car needs a bit of a tune-up, and my pregnant wife needs something from the pharmacy. So I turned to the printed yellow directory, and in an instant, the pizzas are ordered, the oil change is booked, and the thing that I'm not allowed to say out loud has been purchased for my wife. Problem solved. When you need something quick, do yourself a favor. Flip through the printed yellow directory. Stop searching, start finding. Yellow, we know local.
It's time again for the annual Meals on Wheels Orange You Glad Sunset Gala. So, break out your fancy orange outfit, find your little black dress, grab an orange bow tie, or simply show off your orange accessories. A night of elegance not to be missed on May 22nd at the historic Grand Old House, South Church Street. Enjoy cocktails, canopies, a 3-course meal, live and silent auctions, special guests, live entertainment by the John Gray Elite String Ensemble, and the talented Erica Asai. Dance the night away. Tickets are $200 per person, and tables for any size group can be reserved. Book your tables today by emailing info@mealsonwheels.ky or call 345-769-1974. Orange attire is encouraged. See you at sunset at the 8th Annual Meals on Wheels Orange You Glad Sunset Gala. Sponsored by Dolphin Point Club, Ogier, McAlpine, Calderwood, Health City Cayman Islands, and media sponsor Breeze FM and Radio Cayman.
How would you describe Siwa Sayin?
A language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
Okay, I like that definition. Now let's get back to the show.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for sharing with us. And it is at times not as jovial as we would like it to be, but it's
I think it's at the end of the week.
But it is, the idea that we look at our history and we can celebrate it
and question it. Yeah.
And for those who are listening, share your thoughts. 949-8037 or toll free with the Compass of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. And of course, you can WhatsApp 925-3261. Miss Susan's personal number is 949-6990. Call that number, see if she doesn't answer. But you can call at any time. Must really come on.
About 2 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yep. Answers right here in the studio. Mm-hmm. So that's another number that you can use to get to us. Now, Columbus, within the region and within the Cayman context, thanks for setting aside some of those misconceptions and the notion that even before 1503, I can't do a map of 1502, but there was even things before that. So, Ray, you were taking us through? Share with us some more, man.
Yeah, like I was saying, the researchers, the thing is now, the consensus is now is that no pre-Columbian people ever set foot on the Cayman Islands, any of the 3 Cayman Islands, which statistically doesn't even seem correct. They cite the fact that you have to be, I think maybe Grand Cayman at least, because remember you're looking at discovery from the sea. In a canoe, you would have to be at least 6 miles offshore to sight it because of the height of the islands, and then they also cite the coming from Jamaica, how much of the island is being presented, like how they talk about certain degrees, like 4 degrees or something. So basically what it's saying is we're not a big target. We're out in the middle of the ocean. The depth of the water, there's basically things that the dead reckoning they would use back then, sighting birds, vegetation, different color water, different color or different changes in the currents of the water and things like that. They're saying all the signs would lead you not to discover Cayman, but they've been there. Thousands or possibly millions of people in the region, pre-Columbian, and they traveled from Cuba, and like the last caller said, they're in Cuba, they're in Jamaica, they're all around there, but yet these little islands not discovered.
But then go back to our hypothesis in the very early days, right? There is
which early days?
Well, yours or mine?
Because my daughter said back in the olden days, and she was talking about the 90s. So what early days you talking about?
Touche, perspective. But even when, when we first sort of considered putting this show together, how long have we been doing this now? There you go. Go back to your notes. And the idea that is accepted, according to the historical record, that this was a layover for careening. This was a layover for refilling of provisions from water to turtle. Now
you're talking 16. That would be 1600s,
right?
For sure. Yeah.
Right. So as the pirates and the privateers come in. We understand that almost to be accepted on disputed fact. But how did that practice come about? Right?
Yeah.
And then we think
there's lots of accounts of different visits and stuff, but there's a lot of time in between 1503, 1670 when the Treaty of Madrid, when we became English, and 1730s when the settlement. There's big gaps.
Right. But even look at now, right? The 1502 map from Canto, right? That already shows us.
Some think that it might have been taken from Columbus. I don't know. There's, like I said, statistics-wise, I don't recall it. But let's get into some of the things. Okay, like I said about the flat, but we also look at. They were saying there's no major bird colonies and things, but we went to the guano.
So we know that's
phosphate show
that
stated that there was big bird colonies on the Brack. No, I need to do some more research, maybe talk to DOE and stuff like that to see what scale of it. And then also the turtle migration. Did I put that? Oh yeah, in the second voyage, right next to Cayman, Isle of Pines, they talked about so many sea turtles that they thought they would run aground them. And there's also stories of sailors, ancient sailors, using the turtle migration to discover land.
Andres Benedez?
Don't know that one. It's in this one was talked about in Asia.
Okay.
But
even the Gulf of Bottom, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah. So, like I said, basically, boil it down. There's no evidence yet, but I think a lot of more research needs to be done, and I don't know.
But you can see the strong correlation between this even limited to Cuba, but even the Bay Islands or in parts of Honduras.
Isle of Pines has a big lot of history of Tainos there.
Yeah. And then
there was a Taino exhibition by the Smithsonian, and they included Brack and Little Cayman in their region. Like they skirted Grand Cayman and went and did Brack. Now I sent some emails to them. I got to follow up on it to see why they included them. What was their
and I think this is where hopefully all of us, not just the generational Caymanians, but we will celebrate our people. We see the maritime heritage. We understand, decades ago why we were sought out, but go back further and appreciate that there's significant amount of resource and a significant part of our history that isn't being either shared and celebrated or accessed,
or just looked into.
Yeah.
There's not enough of us putting serious or not enough official impetus being put into discovering these things. Like once or twice, I mean, we had like postgraduate students come in and they thought they found something. You remember I telling you a story? They found some shells in the Brack that they thought deep in this cave. And really, when you look at it, anybody that picks up Wilk knows that it's what caused it. And then just why would like to harvest Wilks? Why would you take the time to drill one little hole to harvest the Wilk when you got big rock? And whether it was maybe tried to be used as jewelry or something like that, I don't know. When you saw it, you realize it wasn't man-made.
Yeah.
But
yeah. All right. So we have.
We need to. I think we need to spend a little bit more time looking into that and things like that, and even the Columbus or the Spanish thing with it. Even that, when we were owned by Spain, that part hasn't been totally looked into. I mean, what other than Columbus, Columbus, and then maybe one, like I said, the 17 or 1670s mention of the Little Cayman attack by a Spanish thing. I don't know too much more, but we do have Pedro. Remember we talked in our map, 1770 map show. Pedro, which should be, that's how it's closely pronounced, Pedro, as in Pedro the rock, Pietro the Spanish rock. Okay, you have Great Pedro and then Little Pedro. So it's not a person's name; it's about the rock, the cliff. Basically, they're describing how that's got left over in our history.
Okay,
but yeah.
So now we're looking.
So where you want to go now? So Columbus had a first voyage, like I said, 1492, and second voyage he came back with 17 ships and 1,000 men, livestock to establish colonies. Basically, he was a gifted sailor but a terrible administrator. The colony he founded in Hispaniola turned against him. There was a lot of, like what we talked about, a lot of atrocities and things like that. And by the third voyage, Columbus was actually arrested because of all the bad publicity, bad reports that Queen Isabella was getting, because she was very religious. And again, about the genocide, she didn't want the natives to be troubled, basically, to be slaughtered. She wanted them to be converted. But religion was a big part of it. So after the third voyage, Columbus was arrested, sent back to Spain in chains, and then there's a lot of political thing with it too. Some of the callers stated how he was hated, and that's pretty much true. But how much of that is personality, how much of that is competition, like I said, politics. It's not just today, it's way back then. It was even more obvious back then. These are colonizers, and these guys, Spain had been in war with the Moors, they call them, basically Arab, the North American population for, I think, centuries at that point, and they just finally rid it. So these were hardened, basically people of war, you know. So they come and you got these docile people. It was easy. It's basically it's like a fox in the chicken coop type thing. That attitude. So there were a lot of atrocities. There were a lot of rapes. A lot of just basic killings, crimes. And so he was taken back, and through a third voyage. So after 6 weeks in prison, he was released. And he started again for all his titles were stripped, because part of his contract for the first voyage was that he would become the admiral of the seas of this new world. He got 10% of the proceeds, things like that. So it was a contract written up for it. And basically that's what survives mostly of the whole first voyage was this contract. And I kind of think they just gave him them 3 ships and goes like, okay, let's see if there's anything out there, and if you don't make it back, then you don't come back.
No loss, right? Only 3 ships, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of what it was. So the final voyage was 1502, and they call it the Lost Voyage. And if you look into it, really, and then I was reading, I laughed at one researcher saying, if there was ever a voyage that needed to become or could become a movie, it would have been this one. The amount of twists and turns and everything that they had in it, it's funny. Basically, it's funny. Some of the things.
Mel Brooks movie, probably.
Yeah, and then I don't know. Definitely a dark comedy. So let's see what we say there. So May 1502, he's 51, ill health. The caller alluded to that. Columbus was viewed as an overly religious eccentric by the members of the royal court and the general, like his contemporaries. Basically, he's one of those odd guys that end up during history that kind of changed history. Okay, so and one of the things he did was he thought that once he's still, after this is fourth voyage, he's still trying to get to China. After the first voyage, he made all his crew swear to tell everybody that he had found China. Remember that Cuba was Japan, and these people looked like people that probably from China. And to be fair, it's sort of right. The indigenous people are shown to be linked genetically to the Mongoloid people in China. And when the Ice Age, there was a land bridge, ice bridge across the Bering Strait, and that's how they think the indigenous, or one, I should say one, they're now discovering there was more than one, what do we call it? More than one visitation of more than one population of the region. It wasn't just one group of people. It was over the centuries, numerous ones from over that land bridge. So he promised that he would continue he would go over there, he would find it, he would make it wealthy, and he thought that once he did that, Spain would become very rich, and the whole world would be united in Christianity, and that would be the end of the world.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
So he was one of those guys, right? So he found so this is Queen Isabella now was his good friend in government, and he with royal backing he found 4 seaworthy ships, and like I said, his mission was to explore the uncharted areas, more of the uncharted areas, and the passage to the Orient.
Mm-hmm.
And he was granted 4 ships, all caravels. They were the Galleana, which is like basically a galleon or a ship, the Capitana, the Vizcaya, yeah. And these are, I think that's a region of Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And Santiago de Palos, basically it's a saint of a certain place in Spain. Yeah, he had a crew of 140 men. This is the 4th voyage now. The crew of 140 men, his brothers Diego and Bartholomew, and also his, very important now to note, his 13-year-old son Ferdinand signed up as a crew, and also some veterans from his earlier voyages. And almost all of his voyages were plagued with almost mutinies and things like that. There was a mutiny in this one. So anyway, so he set off. Let's see, when was that date now? So he set off May 11, 1502,
mm-hmm.
and he made it over in record time. He made it 3 weeks across the Atlantic, and he landed in what is now Martinique, and that's on June 15th. Does that work out? May to June 15th.
Mm.
Okay, yeah, and then he went on to Puerto Rico, and his plan was Hispaniola, because I feels like Hispaniola was his place.
Yeah.
Like he felt that was
a new Spain, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And he actually wanted to be buried there, and because of all of the trouble he had and being arrested and stuff, the Queen Isabella, the Spanish royalty, banned him from even landing on the island. That's what his status was.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, when we think of Columbus, it's all this regal guy. He's standing up on the bow of the ship, and he's just discovering these places, they're sailing about, and there's no problems. He's just discovering. But you can tell it's a different from what I think the perception. Okay, so as he's getting to Hispaniola now, he's been refused even to dock in the harbor. He notices, because of his experience in the Caribbean, that there's a hurricane approaching. So this is how, as the caller said, he was a good sailor, maybe not a great administrator, but a good sailor. He notices the signs, and he's asking the governor, which again it's his foe, one of his competitors, for safe harbor. And also they had a fleet that was leaving, and it was, what's it called? The governor was Nicolas de Avandado, and there was a fleet that was leaving. And see how many? There's 28 ships, a fleet of 28 ships by this point. That's going around the Caribbean, and they were supposed to depart for Spain just about that time. And he told them, don't go because there's a hurricane coming. And he said, basically he was a madman. He didn't take his advice. He sent the fleet to Spain. And within a few days, the hurricane hit 24 of them. 3 returned. Only one went on to Spain. And ironically, it was the ship that contained Columbus's fortune, basically, from the previous administration. That ship made, and there's this whole big thing where they called him that he was a sorcerer or something, because he's the one that knew the storm was coming, and only his ship, and then his ships were battered too, but they survived. There's a whole big account of that, like how they, all the anchors. This where I'm getting this information is the famous book that his son Ferdinand, Ferdinand or Fernando? Which one? Ferdinand.
Well,
yes.
I thought it was Fernando.
Ferdinand, yes.
Fernando.
Thank you. That you can find it online and you can read it. Like I said, it gives you all of the details. It gives you all of the. It's important for all the details with the Indians and things like that, and how much hardship they went through. So as soon as they get there, there's a hurricane. They almost die in a hurricane. They almost lose all the ships. His little fleet kind of breaks up. He thinks one of his ships is sunk. They went out. They got broken off and went out of sea. They came back next couple of days. They found them, type thing like that. So after he survived that, still couldn't come ashore. The previous governor had died in one of those ships that were leaving, the one that imprisoned him. And then he went on, I think, from there to, if you look at our map, it looks like he goes on to Jamaica. And
well, it looked like he bypassed to Cuba, though.
Yeah, sorry, he goes to Cuba. I think he wants to try to land there. He can't land there either. And he goes there to and then he ends up Isle of Pines, basically. And
but he went back and forth then from Cuba to Hispaniola, and then came back up to Cuba again to Pines, and then went across, right? Yeah, well,
our section is his thing from Central America, where he tries to go back to Hispaniola, but ends up going to Cuba. But cut a long story short, type of thing. He wants to explore more, so he's still now going to look for China.
Right.
But he's going west.
Should we go back in that sort of that journey, trying to find safe harbor and trying to discover where he's going? And
I didn't look at much of why he. I think it was to repair some of his ships and things like that. He's still, like I said, he's still looking for.
Well, let's go northwest, right? Because the Bay Islands connection. The Bay Islands connection.
Yeah. So he's there, and that's what we're getting now. So he's wants to go west now to find this passage. He's looking for this passage to China. So he goes across Cuba after the hurricane passes. And while he's doing that, the storms hit him again. There's storms. I don't know how much, whether these are full-blown hurricanes or what it is.
Mindful now, this is not September, but this is said to be in July. Right? The height of summerish, so to speak.
Yeah.
So the reason why I say that is that
this is hurricane season.
Hurricane season, presumably. Okay. So he's in July. End of July or into August, right?
So 30th of July is when they said he ends up, and I didn't know that Guanaja had so much connection. The Bay Islands had so much connection with it.
Yeah.
The 30th of July, 1502. Columbus in his ship reached Central America, but it's off the coast of Honduras in the island believed to be Guanaja, or people call Banaca. Or Banaca is a key off of Guanaja.
So to those who listen, right, this is why I asked earlier, but go back to our very early discussions and seeing the connection with the Cayman Islands, but Grand Cayman seemingly initially, Cuba and the Bay Islands, and how and sort of like that tri-island approach. The movement then, 500, 600 years ago, even longer probably, but from the historical record, easily 500 years, and the movement now.
And I have to state too, on the ship, probably by that time, because they said from Hispaniola, they picked up natives there, they were using for interpreters. So these could be pilots.
Right.
They could also be pilots. And these guys knew, like they could tell him that it took 21 days to circle one of the islands. I don't know whether it's Cuba or Hispaniola. They know in that much detail.
Yeah.
You know.
And it comes back then to the notion that when you fast forward to the 1600s, the 1700s, and we're seeing Grand Cayman being a layover. I'm convinced more than ever from every leaf to be turned.
Yeah, I got to send you that log, and that gives you so much details. And I want to look for the passage, the little section where it says, I think somewhere in between Hispaniola and Cuba trip, they just out in the middle of the ocean, they came across 2 Indians in a canoe, and they were just. They signaled them to be quiet, and they stopped for a while, and it must have been before the boats rotted, but they could actually do that. Sat and they observed them how they were fishing, and they had a fish tied to on the tail, tied to a string. Turned out to be one of them remoras, and they were thrown in the water, and for it to stick on, the remoras thing is to go to a bigger fish. They look for a bigger animal, and they basically were fishing with this remora, and they were fishing for turtles.
So when we come back, maybe we can look into that and get into some more of that encounter, as it were.
Yeah.
And I think as people start to appreciate, this is a very rich history.
Yeah.
But it's
what you definitely get from this is how many interactions they had with natives. That's one thing.
And I don't want people to think in any other way that the rich connection between, say, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, and Honduras, right, in particular, it's probably why we see it so evident today, because it's been from time immemorial.
It might be. I definitely know it's from well, for lack of a better word, pirate days.
Yeah,
there's connections.
Right.
Now, further than that, I'm not qualified to.
No.
To say.
I mean, you're open that out.
Yeah, but this is just a discussion.
Right.
This is sort of like a teaser to say, "Oi, we need to look at even Columbus and a Spanish connection."
Exactly. All right, let's pause and take a break. Maybe pick up a call or two. An idea what awaits you. Stay tuned. Talk today.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands. The ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom. The land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
The Lions Club of Grand Cayman will be hosting a prostate and colon cancer educational awareness meeting on Monday, 24th of May at 7:30 p.m. at the Georgetown Town Hall, Constitutional Hall. Guest speakers for the evening will be Dr. Paraz and Dr. Sunil from Health City, Cayman Islands. Come out and be informed. And men, come out and get your free PSA test done. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman, serving the community for the past 48 years.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
When I was growing up in Cayman, Sundays was always a big day for our family. Everyone would go to Granny's house for Sunday dinner after church. Even today, I can still smell the aroma of all the delicious food we used to eat, especially the hot, fresh baked bread smothered in butter, topped off with our favorite pan cheese. These days, I don't have enough time to cook and bake, but I do my best to carry on the Sunday tradition of family meals, and being able to get hot, fresh bread with no preservatives or additives from Caribbean Bakery is a big help for me. Shh, don't tell them, they still think I baked it. Caribbean Bakery, now delivering every Sunday to McGrath's grocery store in Eastern Avenue and Marina Drive. Caribbean Bakery, made Cayman fresh.
The 8:10 a.m. Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by Pan American International Insurance Corporation. Pan American International Insurance Corporation, meeting the life, accident, and health insurance needs of individuals and businesses to ensure financial security and peace of mind. For more information, call 949-8304 or visit www.palig.com. That's PALIG.com. You can now renew your driver's license or motor vehicle license online. And you don't need an ESID number. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Visit www.dvdl.gov.ky.
The La Masque Dinner Show, an elegant evening of fine dining, live entertainment, and more at the Kimpton Seafire Resort, Saturday, June 5th, 7 p.m. to midnight. Tickets are just $150 each on eventpro.ky or visit Les Classiques to book a table of 10. Proceeds to benefit the HSA's dialysis unit. The La Masque Dinner Show, a signature Badabanu event, June 5th at the Kimpton Seafire Resort. See you there.
Siwa Sayin is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. Siwa Sayin.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And thanks to the Ray Banker as we look at the whole issue of Columbus in the Caribbean context, but in particular in Cayman, as a teaser, a prelude to what lies ahead. She ain't nothing but a teaser. Oh yes, Susan.
I'm sorry that I started that. I'm sorry for my part in that. I apologize from now profusely.
It's a Friday, baby. All right, we got a call online, and I'm going to have to just think of what lies ahead. Good afternoon and welcome, and thanks for calling.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, man. How are you?
I'm all right.
Okay.
Good afternoon to your guest.
Okay, I know you sing probably only better than me, right? So, want me to try a thing? Good to hear from you always, man. You are...
Dwayne, I just want two things. The first thing, I want to set the fact that I visited the most oldest mosque in Cuba, which is dated before Christopher Columbus reached this region.
Mm-hmm.
The date is in the stone in front of that Muslim mosque in Cuba is dated before Christopher Columbus, and Arab Algerians and Moroccans and Tunisians, the first people to reach this region before Christopher Columbus in a longer time. Those facts is being historical written and recorded in the Cuban history.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this fact need to be, and the people who lead Christopher Columbus to this area is the sailors from the North African Arab and Muslim countries who lead Christopher Columbus to this area. The second point I want to make, not regarding this Columbus, but when we have an issue and a problem in this country which is called the fishermen. I know it is not the subject today.
Yeah, but if you would, only with the greatest respect, because time is today really short. I don't wish to dismiss them in fishing and our seafaring heritage and the fishermen plight without question. But let's pick it up another time if you would be so kind. And he's right. So apologies for that, but let's keep it tight into the topic. So Columbus,
and the caller was there's talk about that. Yeah, the African African evidence, possibly African evidence of discovering the Caribbean. What I can say, there's more evidence and probably even the DNA is, the Vika Indians, one of very dark skin, and basically they look alike.
How you say that? You Vika?
Isn't it Vika? Yeah.
I'm not sure that's but yeah, I know what you mean.
But they are listed as Vika Indians.
Yeah.
I think it's said as a derogatory thing, but they look at, and Columbus, his son, has a description of them.
Yeah.
And what we don't look at is that, and they were saying, the research was saying that it was showing that they were before all of the indigenous. and that was from the other side. This is people visiting from the Atlantic side. Now you forget about the Pacific side. These were Aborigines, or they found, they think it might be Aborigine, Australian Aborigine fishermen that got lost, and there's the currents and stuff ends up, they end up in this little bay in Panama. Or around that area, basically Central America. And so that might be the reason for these Waika Indians and why they look so differently. They're more African and black. Ferdinand's son described them as curly hair, black, ugly, his words, or translated words. And they were known for piercing their ears and putting eggs in the ears, and that's why they call the coast of ears or something like that. But that's more of a, and there's, before all of this wave of, this colony of people, this indigenous people, there's these gigantic stone sculptures would have these people with African looking features.
Which plays into what you see on that side of the world, right? Yeah. And I think this is where we need to increase a little.
Now, whether that's being confused with what the last caller said, with like the African influence, things like that. But there are accounts of like an African.
But it comes back to what you shared. You go into the news, the idea that Columbus into the Bay Islands, the Cuba Cayman.
Follow Radio Cayman.
Did that scare you too? Maybe we can pick that up after the break.
Is that the lightning?
That's what put a shocking on us, and then we can talk more about it from that part.
And then we gotta get into the part about the Cayman.
All right.
A little bit.
A little bit, and the sightings and the like. All right. Well, seems like the time is ticking.
Yeah.
So
it's going fast today.
Indeed. Join us after the news.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Meals on Wheels' largest annual fundraiser gets underway tomorrow, and organizers hope the much-anticipated event will help raise critical funds for the non-profit organization. When guests arrive, they'll be entered by the John Gray String Ensemble, local singer Erica Asai, and a live and silent auction. There will also be a surprise door prize. The Orange You Glad Gala happens this Saturday, that's tomorrow, starting at 6 p.m. at Grand Old House. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Of the 219 people who have been killed in Gaza, at least 63 are children, and that's according to its health ministry. The country's medical service says of the 10 people killed in Israel, 2 children are among the dead. And the world's major nations have taken further significant steps to help limit climate change. G7 environment ministers have agreed that they will deliver climate targets in line with limiting the rise in global temperatures to 1.5 Celsius. That's far more ambitious than the previous 2 Celsius maximum. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Siwa Sayin is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. Siwa Sayin.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us as we continue the Ray Banker and truly recognizing the importance of what we have.
And the time is really speeding by.
Yeah. Okay, Ray, take us down the path.
Yeah, so we talked about being in Guanaja. So that's July 30th, 1502. Okay, so and where he was there, and he encountered these natives in his large canoe. It was 8 foot wide, and it hold over 20 people, and it even had like a structure on it, a shelter from the waves and stuff like that. And they think it may be the first European encounter with the Mayan. So he's Taino all through the Caribbean, and the Caribs, different ones, and these are now Mayan. These are Central American powerhouses now in the Yucatan. And they had all different things. They carried copper tools, weapons, swords made of wood and flint, textiles, beer-like beverages made from fermented corn. oddly enough, he decided not to investigate the trading civilization. Instead, turning north, and he reached turning north. Instead, he went south. Yeah, he didn't go and go to the Aztecs and things like that. And so he's and he's traveling all down south along Central American coast, and he's to cut basically a 8-month trip short. He's going into different rivers, big rivers and stuff. All this time he's still trying to get to China, basically finding. He thinks this is like the Malaccan Straits and things like that up there where Magellan had talked about. Or
right.
Not Magellan. Was it Magellan? Vasco. Whoever it was that went around to found the way west to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Yes. To Asia, through Africa. And so he's encountering so many different, and if you're interested in it, please go try to find Fernando's Columbus log and his account of it, and you will find all the details, the great details, and some of the funny stuff. Okay, so, and they were constantly trading for gold, and what strikes me was like the Indians were. That was a common thing to trading, and they were trading gold for like little bells.
Mm-hmm.
They call them little hawk bells because that's one of the first things when they first met the Tainos. They were so amazed by this little ding, 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 ding bell type thing. So they were trading over their gold that they had on their jewelry basically for it. And some of them, the encounters were friendly. Some of them were warring. Some of them were scared. There's a detailed account of 2 of them that they found out in the ocean, and they saw him. So they saw coming near to him. They tried to row to him to talk to him to trade, and they, like I say, constantly looking for sources of gold and looking for this passage. And they jumped over and they swam. They could not catch up with them. Swam. They said half a league or something, which is like a mile and a half or something. These guys are swimming, and when they got almost to him, got close to him, they said they dove in like a seabird, and they would dive up. So the son was laughing, saying, or the whole crew, the rowers, they all got tired trying to catch them. These were swimming. So that's another thing we don't think about, how the proud. We think it's all African that we get our athletic performance from, but the natives are known for it too. So they finally gave up trying to catch them.
You imagine rowing a canoe and you guys swimming,
and they can't catch up with them.
For like 2 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing, huh? All right.
So that's some of the things, and then another one was they were in a harbor, and they were basically replenishing their supplies. So they went after this large fish, and they say about the size of a bed, and just resting on the shore, and they harpooned it. And it took off and took the boat. It took the boat with them. And basically it was a manta ray, one of those big manta rays, and they ended up eating it. And they also caught a sea calf, is what they called it, and basically a manatee. And they said it was more delicious than a calf and things like that. So like I said, spent many months exploring, looking for passage for China. He was also looking for gold sources. He's gone through Honduras at that point, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and he's given them names, different names. If he's mentioning a whole bunch of their Spanish or the native names, and he's changing them, a lot of them to religious names or something that happened. One of his crew died, so he called it the river of this guy that died. And he's getting stuck up rivers. There's storms again, a whole bunch of storms that he's coming in contact with. His poor boats are just getting mashed up, and his crew again is getting is pissed at him basically. But so he's now in Panama. So this is the last part now before we get to us. He's in Panama, and he learned from see if you can pronounce that, Gnobe.
Ngobi.
Ngobi. And the gold, he learned from there's gold and a straight to another ocean. So now he never discovered Pacific. There was another another conquistador that is what do you call it? Maybe Ponce de Leon, maybe. Don't know. I have to look into that one. That's credited with discovering a sighting. There's something where he went up a tree and he could see one sea and the next sea type thing. And so he, after some exploration, a whole bunch of trips into the forest, to the jungle, he just abandoned it. Because you got to be mindful, like what caller said, he was suffering from gout and they say arthritis. And I think they're saying it's another disease that he had basically, and these are just some of the symptoms.
Yeah.
So they think it finally affected him, and he was like, I mean, you can imagine he's going through all these hurricanes, surviving all these hurricanes. So like 3-4 Ivans basically.
Yeah. We got a couple of calls on. You want to pick some?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Hey, let's try some calls. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Welcome back.
Good afternoon again. Yes. Your signal keeps coming in and out sometimes for half a minute or so.
Sorry about that.
Down here in Westby, yes. So I missed quite a bit, but yes, it's very interesting watching you delve into. It's obviously very in depth, Ray, what you've gone into. But I remember there was some research done about 25 years ago, I think it was, and I was reading, might have been slightly more, but I don't think it's much more than that. That they had done a research amongst all the islands in the Caribbean and the countries, Caribbean, maybe the mainland countries, so forth, and they had found that there are only 9 people who could irrefutably prove that they were descendants of Arawak Indians. That's how decimated they had been over the years, as we had started to talk about with all this. Because they were very peaceful, artistic people. That was their thing. The Caribs, on the other hand, there are hundreds of thousands of descendants because they were very fierce and warlike people. Remember the British, when they took control of the big island of Jamaica, they took many of them to the Mosquito Coast of Nicaragua there.
Yes, sir.
Where they fish for turtle, and settled them there so they couldn't be taken as slaves, because it was a big problem with them, with a type of guerrilla warfare that they carried out, similar to something with the Vietnam War in Vietnam, with this guerrilla type warfare. That is why they took them there and they settled them there. But with the thing my friend here, Mr. Carbon, was talking about, I understand all that with Columbus being Jewish and so forth, I knew about that. And the presence in the big island of Jamaica, because everybody realized there was a lot of wealth to be gathered there with a huge land space and the sugar cane, and after a while it was enormous. And the Jewish presence and the Arab presence came in about the early to the mid to late 1800s, where they became the predominant merchants, so to speak, and then control things. I don't want to go into, because it might disturb certain relationships. I work for government, but it was a very powerful thing. I remember going to school, and with both Arab and Jewish, youngsters, and we were, teens and all that, so we understood many things.
Yes, sir.
And everything was quite okay. This is in the 1950s, and so. But when you left school in the afternoon, and their parents were just like how, you might find sort of Mideast, not that violent, but they were, against each other, more or less. It was on the Arab side that they wanted, nothing to do with the parents of the Jewish children, though they were both all merchants. It was amazing. And I said, some of them, and they said, well, we don't have that person over to our house there, make us. I said, why not? And he said, well, they're Jewish and so forth. And I'd say, but Jesus, I just thought you were all white Jamaicans, but that, that was it. But like I say, there are lots of books written by Jamaican historians and so forth, and particularly the 1800s, 1700s, and all that. But the thing with Columbus is that the myths kind of magnified over the years, as they're trying to explain there to people that they really didn't discover, and later years it all. It wasn't a discovery. It's that the European world happened to have arrived over here with their knowledge of mathematics and being able to build these vessels over there, and being able to sail with larger vessels and come over and find this world. And these people, you've got to realize, were in huge countries. They had no need to leave their countries. They had the gold, they had the this, they had the that. And the predominant thing was money.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Wealth. Just like nowadays.
Money is rule all evil.
Wealth. Yep. It was all about money. Seeking wealth, seeking gold, seeking this, seeking that. If you boil it down, that is the main ingredient in the soup. It was money.
Yes,
money. Have a wonderful day, listener.
Right. Thank you too, sir. Thank you too, sir.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you too. And it is seems to be motivated, but Ray, as you were taking us through, I mean, this is sort of part and parcel of where we are, and how do we continue to not just delve into it, but to ensure that it's an accurate reflection. But you were pushing us on a path. Let's continue.
So we were in Central America, and he's basically given up trying to find his passage. So he's tried to now establish, at least because this is one of his directives, to establish a garrison in the mouth of the Baleine River. This is around Panama, and in January 1503. So he left I think he was trying to leave his brother, but the garrison had been run over by the natives because they realized that these people are trying to stay. And so there's a whole account of him kidnapping the cacique, which is the chief of these Indians, and holding them hostage, him and some of the other principal men. They on the way to taking them to the ship, they escaped. And so he only had a couple of people hostage to help with him, to negotiate, basically. And those ones on the ship, they ended up committing suicide on the ship, hanging themselves on the ship.
Rather than go.
Yeah, rather than go. Now, so this time you got attacks by the Indians, and you got more storms. And now he's to the point where he's lost a vessel. Where do I have that? Which one was it first? Now, the Galeana was abandoned in Panama because of these Indian attacks. And then now, around about April 16, another one, the Vizcaya, was leaking. He found out that these boats now, and you now as a boating person, the whole what they call shipworm. Yeah. How prevalent is that today? They say it's a little mollusk or something that gets in. These are ships, wooden ships.
Yeah.
So they're like high on maintenance, So the boats are suffering between all of the storms and getting trapped in some of the rivers and stuff like that. They said it was so bad shape that if it touched the bottom of like a sand bottom of one of the rivers, it risked being damaged. Right. So at this point now, where are we now?
First in 15 or first part of May, like?
So, first of May, they decided, like, look, we're going to have to try to go back Hispaniola now for some help. And now, you notice now, or you'll find that the mapping still isn't perfect. Like, they're still just trying to find a way, guessing. He's dead reckoning and things like that. We got this map here, 1st of May. He decides to try to make it to Hispaniola. So this now...
Coming to the Panama area.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you want to read now, so this now is his way back. He's trying to find his way back to Hispaniola, which ultimately turns out to be Jamaica. Going to be Jamaica after a couple of stops. But this now is where we come in. if you want to read that now.
So now this
started
is
from May 1st, Monday, May 1st, 1503.
And this is now an account by his son.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's now 14?
Yeah, now 14. And on board 2 of the Romanian ships. This is the Capitana and the Santiago de Palos. Now, when you're reading there, you're going to come across talking about a ship called the Bermuda that I need to find out, because one of the ships they wanted to change her up. But
so as we read that now, quick question for you. Papi Gonna did the song. We've all in the history books, the Niña, the Pinta, the Santa Maria.
Yeah, they had already gone long time.
Right. So
one of them had sunk. The Santa Maria had sunk on the first voyage.
Right. So that part of our history that we thought was the ships that he was on.
Yeah. No.
Not true.
Not true.
Not true at all.
No, not accurate. No.
Not accurate.
That's first ship. That's how many years? That's what, 4 years ago?
Wasn't even earlier before that?
Yeah, but how much is that? 14.
So his first ships were
1492.
Right, and this is 1503.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now, here he is. We're repeatedly, probably even to this day in our schools, talking about these 3 ships.
Yeah.
We know that there are more ships than that, but none of those 3 ships were
it's
actually.
Basically the Capitana that sighted us.
Right. Interesting, huh?
And it's a 14-year-old, his 14-year-old illegitimate son.
Yeah.
Ferdinand.
All right. Now, for me to read that, probably going to take a break first.
Okay.
And I can read the account.
Yeah.
You pull the ship's log?
Yeah, that's directly, as far closest as you can get to his son's words.
All right, let's get an account when we come back. I'll see if I can read what Ray has written from the ship's log. Stay tuned.
When you're tight on time and budget, but big on flavor, Subway's Meal of the Day hits the spot. Enjoy daily meals on classic sandwiches like tuna, Black Forest ham, meatball marinara, and more. Starting at $6.25 for 6-inch meals and $8.75 for footlongs. You can get Subway's Meal of the Day. Enjoy a different sandwich on a different day for the same price. Mix it up with cookies or chips or waffle fries for the same price. Subway, eat fresh. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Please be advised that the pension contribution holiday has been extended until 30th of June 2021. Employers and plan members should ensure arrangements are in place for salary deductions and remittance following this date. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan, keeping you informed. For further information, visit chamberpensions.ky, and for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. We're here for you. This Saturday, May 22nd, the vaccination challenge is heading to Cayman Brac. Join Minister of Tourism and Transport, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, and Minister of Health and Wellness, the Honorable Sabrina Turner, at the Aston Rutty Medical Wing from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for a meet and greet with the community as you get vaccinated. And remember, anyone being vaccinated through June 9th will be entered into the Vaccination Challenge prize draw for prizes, including airline tickets, staycations, and more.
Hi Cayman, I'm Mariah Tibbetts, your reigning Miss Cayman Islands Universe. Are you a young Caymanian lady between the ages of 18 and 27 who's looking for a platform to bring opportunities and amazing experiences into your life? Then the Miss Cayman Islands Universe pageant is the gateway to your future. Applications can be completed and submitted at our website at www.misscaymanislandsuniverse.com. Deadline for registration is May 25th. I'm looking forward to being a part of your journey to the crown.
The Lions Club of Grand Cayman will be hosting a prostate and colon cancer educational awareness meeting on Monday, 24th of May at 7:30 p.m. at the Georgetown Town Hall, Constitutional Hall. Guest speakers for the evening will be Dr. Paraz and Dr. Sunil from Health City Cayman Islands. Come out and be informed. And men, come out and get your free PSA test done. The Lions Club of Grand Cayman, serving the community for the past 48 years.
Siwa Sayin is a special feature of Talk Today with contributions from the National Museum, a language, history, and culture show on Radio Cayman 89.9 and 93.9 FM. Siwa Sayin.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And I hope you're enjoying it. It's sort of taking us through the centuries as we look at Christopher Columbus and the Cayman connection, recognizing that the Bay Islands and Cuba play remarkably well in sort of these three islands' historical
Jamaica.
connections. So we're bankers work on Christopher Columbus. Now here is an account from Columbus's 14-year-old illegitimate son back in 1503, as they're trying to make their way from Panama, hopefully looking for Hispaniola, and by happenstance stumbles across the Cayman Islands, right?
And in what condition they're in.
All right. The reference in it to the admiral is referring to Columbus. The reference to Christians
are basically the crew.
The crew, right? So this is not Columbus, but his 14-year-old son's sort of log. So it's Monday, May 1, 1503. We stood... Huh?
They're in Panama at that point?
Yeah. So we stood to the northward with winds and currents easterly, always endeavoring to sail as close to the wind as possible. The pilots insisted. Now these pilots are the local, right, people?
Well, no, these are his crew. This
Okay.
is what makes me think that the admiral might be, he's not well. He's,
Okay. The pilots insisted that we had passed eastward of the Caribbean Islands, but the admiral, Columbus, feared he would not be able to reach Hispaniola. So it turned out, because Wednesday, May 10th, we sighted two very small, low islands full of turtles, as was all the sea thereabout, so that it seemed to be full of little rocks. That is why these islands were called Las Tortugas. Seems like what we would call it.
Basically, that is it.
Yeah. In passing northward by them, we arrived on Friday afternoon at the Jardín de la Reina, which is a great number of small islands on the south side of Cuba. As we lay here at anchor, 10 leagues, 30 plus miles from Cuba, suffering greatly from hunger because we had nothing to eat but biscuit and a little oil and vinegar, and exhausted by working 3 pumps day and night to keep the vessels afloat, for they were ready to sink from the multitude of holes made by the shipworm. There came on a night a great storm in which the Bermuda, being unable to ride it out, fouled us and broke our stern. Nor did she get off whole, but smashed her stern almost to the helm. With great labour on account of the heavy rain and high wind, by God's favour the ships got clear of each other, and although we let go all the cables and anchors we had, none held out but the ship's sheet anchor. The next morning we found intact but one strand of our cable, which must have parted if the night had lasted 1 hour longer. And since that place was full of rocks and could not have avoided running on some of those astern of us, but it pleased God to deliver us then, as he had delivered us from many other dangers. Departing from there with much labour, we put in an Indian village on the coast of Cuba called Macaca. And having obtained some refreshment there, we stood over toward Jamaica, because the easterly winds and the strong westward running currents would have never let us make Hispaniola, or as they call it, Hispaniola, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially since the ships were so riddled by the shipworm that day and night, we never ceased working 3 pumps each of them. And if any broke down, we had to supply its place, because it was being patched up from all of our efforts. The eve of St. John's Day, the water in the ship rose so high that it almost took us to the deck. With great toil, we continued in this state until daybreak, when we made a harbour in Jamaica, named Puerto Bueno. Right? It's good
harbour, basically.
Yep. This harbour was well protected, but had no source of fresh water, nor was there any Indian village in the vicinity. So keeping afloat as well as we could, the next day we sailed eastward to another harbour named Santa Gloria, that was enclosed with reefs. Having got it, since we were no longer able to keep the ships afloat, we ran them ashore as far as we could, grounding them close together and shoring them up on both sides so they could not budge. And the ships being in this position, the tide rose almost to the decks. Upon these and the fore and stern castles we built cabins where the people could lodge, making their position as strong as possible so the Indians could us no harm, right? For all that time the island was not inhabited or subdued by the Christians. And this is when I was saying to the caller earlier that it would appear that at that time the settlements of the Tainos and the like tended to be more away from, and Jamaica was uninhabited significantly, right? So I think that part of
so they ended up, basically where they end up is today's St. Anne's Bay, or St. Anne, Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole big thing. But you can, like I said, I hope it gives you an idea, like wide, like there's no stopping in Cayman. There's no, not even Grand Cayman. It's Brac. It looks like they go across Little Cayman and the Brac. And that's when they realize, oh, we done messed up. This is nowhere near Hispaniola.
Yeah.
You know?
At what point he realized he wasn't in China. But
yeah. Nowhere near China. They're lucky to survive. You can tell they're constantly pumping the boats. And I think these pumps are just like these little tubes, basically, that has like a little plunger in it. And you just basically, they're just working there. And you can tell how flooded the boat is.
Up to the gunwale, huh?
Can you imagine? So it's almost like if you're in a car and you run out of gas and you coast. You know, if you ever been in that situation, you kind of coast into the gas.
So it sounds like this experience.
Yeah.
Thankfully
coast into the house or something, to the yard or something like that.
You have no sump pump, no bilge going there.
Everything. Huh? And the guy, and they're doing this all the way from Panama. So they've been doing this for days.
Day in, day and night. Wow.
Can you imagine? And they're hungry. All they had was biscuit. I guess is that when you go to an Italian restaurant, it's, what do you call it again? Where you got bread and then a little bit
of vinegar?
Yeah. So can you imagine?
What's that song? Tells you day and night.
I don't know, but this, to me, it's a vastly different picture than I think what we've posted, like what we thought.
The interesting thing,
discovery was.
Yeah, we harp, rightfully so. How can you discover what already exists? Right?
Yeah. I'm just saying that cited. We need to say cited.
And we understand the importance of language and the power of words and the connotations therefrom, right? But I think even something, if there's no takeaway from any other than two things, we repeat often without questioning. Yeah. So the Niño de Pinto and whatever they call it, discard them.
He's on the Capitana is basically what he is.
Yeah, right.
And whether even Columbus even was in a state that he could even go look to see what it was. I don't know. His personal logs don't survive for I guess for a bunch of different reasons.
Right.
So a lot of his stuff is third hand.
Right. And then I think this is, I liked U.S. President Ronald Reagan. I think him and
that's a serious the right hand tangent you did there.
No.
From Columbus.
No. I can tell you.
Okay.
I like the relation that he seemed to have with British Prime Minister Thatcher and Russian President Gorbachev.
Yeah.
According to just the media accounts, right, without any questioning, President Reagan would say to President Gorbachev, and quoting Gorbachev's often, sort of Russian proverbs, trust but verify, right? And so now we need to look at history, and like anything, be inquiring minds, be discerning spirits, and willingly delve into things and try to substantiate, and where necessary, question, correct, and sort of communicate it to others, and just this little glimpse.
Even the previous scholar, I was trying to correct him, saying it was the fourth voyage. He was saying the second and third voyage.
No, it was the fourth one.
He had visited Jamaica before, I think, but the fourth voyage was the time. If you go on further now, he spent a year in Jamaica. He's amazing that he survived all of this, because he was marooned there. And what he was saying, that his rival again in Hispaniola would pay him no mind. He had to get one of his crew to go with the
Nicolas
natives.
de Obando. Yeah.
One of his crewmen, two of his crew, to row from Jamaica to Hispaniola. Forget how much, 100 miles or something like that. Didn't know if they made it. While he was there, he had to go try to coax the guy to say, "Listen, we're marooned over here. Come, send a boat over there." And basically, to wrap it all up, he after about a year, and what the other notable thing was what the caller had said, he had predicted the natives was tired of giving them food. The Taínos were tired of feeding them and stuff, and they were about to kill them. I think he rightly predicted through using almanacs and stuff that there would be an eclipse of the moon. And he told them, "Listen, if you anger the gods, you could turn the moon red." And sure enough, within a couple of days, it did, and they brought him all kind of food, and so that kept him going for a little bit longer. And finally, what was it now? June 1504, two ships finally arrived to retrieve Columbus and his crew. And so instead of the crew was down to, and there was a mutiny and to some brothers separated, and they started messing with the native and things like that. Right. And so that's why we call it. But anyway, ended up approximately 120 men survived out of 140 with all of the stuff that went on. Some didn't want to go back with Columbus, and they wanted to stay Hispaniola in the New World and get their fortunes. And then the rest went back to Spain. And then within 2 years, a lot of it because of this trip, Columbus died.
Which
was it?
May 20th?
1506?
May 20th, yesterday, would have been, anniversary of his. Yeah. That's why looking at when today is the 21st, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday, May 20th, 1506, historical records say that's when he passed, right?
Mm-hmm. In Spain. Then he was supposedly buried in Seville, Spain. And he was taken back, reburied in Hispaniola. And when that changed hand, he went to the next Spanish-owned thing, which was Cuba. That was taken over. That became independent, and then they took him back to Seville, Spain. And so his remains, the 3 places claim for his remains. Hispaniola still says that they found something that says it was Colomba. Seville, in 2006, they opened it up and they did a DNA on it, and I had to sort of correct Carl on that. It doesn't seem to have any Jewish thing. He may not even, the likelihood that he's there's 3 places I claim him. Italy, obviously, right now, Spain, and Portugal, and it's kind of leaning towards Portugal. They think he might have changed his name. He did a little identity thing and all kind of stuff, and it might be because he was like a mercenary or something. He fought against Spain, and if he had said that's where he was from, he would lose all, his children would lose all the thing. So, and they didn't get enough DNA, or DNA technology. 2006 wasn't as good. So sometime this year, it's supposed to be slated. I don't know now with COVID and all that. It's something slated to give the results, the more final results of everything, where he's from, if he's really Italian, because all his stuff, he's only wrote like a song or something in Italian. He never wrote. He more wrote in a Catalan type of language, which could be some part of Portugal too. So Columbus.
Which begs the question, how many of us are willing to question what we read, hear, see? And when we do question it, are the questions evocative enough? Are the people who told the questions are directed receptive enough to engage in some sort of discussion with a view to ensuring that knowledge is shared accurately, and not just for things to look a certain way because at that point in time it's political expedient or correct. We're seeing it to this day. Christopher Columbus wasn't yesterday, but look at how many just in the Cayman context alone, right? We are sort of mistaken. Just the ships alone, the names of the ships alone. How many people know what was the name of the ship?
Mistaken,
the Goldfield?
Misinformed, I would kind of.
What was the name of the ship? The Columbus's son?
It was the Capitan, and then the Santiago de Pilos?
Palos,
yeah. Which is a place in Spain.
But the Capitana, right? So no longer,
No, not the Pinta and the Nina and all those things.
Yeah.
No.
So you see why we had that in a promo, right?
Yep.
Ray, you're doing a remarkable work. It is, I know, very, very taxing. And it's challenging, but it just shows how much more we need to do. Thanks to Ms. Susan.
At the end of this, I hope, like I said, people go like, oh, well, we need to look into this more.
And I say this not just because I'm very proud of our people, of this country, its history. I am so grateful that many come here, love it, share that love, and cause us to look at it renewed and anew. And perhaps with that, we can find ways to cherish it, champion it, share it, preserve it, promote it, embrace it, because it doesn't matter where you're from. The fact is, this is where you are. Why not improve what you have. So if you are in this space now because you feel trapped, well,
at least appreciate it. I mean, there's so much. It's like we keep saying, there's so much history in Cayman. There's so much. There's so much. There's so much.
Yeah,
and there's so much. Probably more that we're not discovered yet because we're not really looking.
There's so much more we haven't shared with people yet. I keep teasing for that next one.
Yeah.
All right. Seriously, man. Thank you very much. If anybody else doesn't appreciate it, I know the amount of work you put into it, and I thank you.
And I have to say, my notes this time was not the best, but I hope people got the gist of it.
Yeah. Well, so it was the Capitana?
Yeah, I think so. Capitana.
Yeah, that was the one.
And like I said, the Bermuda that they mentioned there, I got to look into that because I tried to figure out, like I said, how that come about, whether they were naming a different.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, this is it. Well, listen, have a wonderful, blessed, safe, productive, enjoyable weekend. Come back on Monday for more today after the midday news and midday meditation. Certainly join Mr. Art in the morning for the record. Stay tuned to Susan now as she sort of give you some easy listening afternoon music.
And share any corn turtle that you have because Dwayne is not.
Just. With that in mind, Ray, there's something that I wish to...
What?
No. I will see you when I see you, and I will...
Anyway.
All right, Susan, you can play the song that you want.
And if you haven't, if you want to hear some of the other things, join us on YouTube.
All right. Until Monday, be blessed.
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying? It happening every third Friday on Talk Today.
Jointly produced by the National Museum and Radio Cayman. A language, history, and culture show. Remember, it's every third Friday on 89.9 and 93.9 FM. See what I'm saying?
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient open